I was a paranormal investigator, but a few months ago I realized how I wasn't making any progress, so I quit. You know those old people in libraries telling stories to young children? Well, in most towns, you have to volunteer to do that. You don't get paid, but in my town, I do get paid. And that's my new job. I tell scary stories that I've experienced. Well, not all the stories that I tell are those that I've experienced. Some are other people's experiences. And also, let me tell you, the ones about me are real, absolutely real. The other ones, I'm not sure. Those stories are all from my friends. Most of the times, they're honest, but you never know. Anyway, let's start. It was back when I'd wanted to become a doctor. I had no experience in a hospital whatsoever, so I decided to go to the Experience Being a Nurse campaign. Back then, I was curious on why they had chosen the oldest hospital in my town. You know what I'm talking about, right? Hospitals are odd places. They're also sad places. A nurse's job is to comfort a patient. I didn't know this before the campaign, but patients are pretty lonely when they're stuck in a hospital for a while. Of course, their families visit once in a while, but that's only like once a week. Hospital parking is expensive. So the nurses go and talk to the patients while they're lying in bed. That makes the patient really happy. Having someone to talk to and have a person actually listen to you. And for the nurses, they're happy too. They get to know what the person is actually like. There's always a chance of becoming good friends too, but that isn't how hospitals always work. After getting to know a patient, some of them pass away, so all of the work gets thrown out the window. You're also overcome by the glum feelings in your brain. You can't act like this forever, though. There are other patients looking for someone to talk to, and that's how hard it is to be a nurse. I thought being a nurse was much easier than being a doctor. Well, maybe education-wise it is, but, you know, from what I just explained, it might not be that easy. I felt queasy when I first entered the hospital doors. The doors slid open with a squeak, indicating that the door was quite old. I explained to the woman behind the counter what I was there for. She smiled and led me back to a room where another woman was waiting for me. She examined me with her strict eyes and briskly stood up, and she struck her hand on my waist. "Hi, I'll be leading you today." She said her name was Norris. As she showed me around the hospital, time passed quickly. It was past dinner time when we finished. I realized that there was a problem. Wait, I was supposed to actually be a nurse today, right? Not just get shown around? Yes, exactly. You're on night duty. Night duty. The time when all the ghosts, demons, and stuff come out and hunt the hospital. After explaining how the nurse's station worked, she left me standing alone with a post-it note that had her phone number scribbled on it. With a sigh, I slumped down onto the leather chair that was encompassed with several flashing lights and buttons. I pulled out a book that I'd been reading since the past 2 days and read for a while. In a matter of minutes, I had fallen asleep. I woke up when the nurse call light flashed in my face. Startled, I fell onto the floor and stretched my neck up to see what room needed my service. 207, room 207. I hurriedly scurried down the hallways. Room 207 was on the east building, very far away from the nurse's station. My shoes made quiet sounds that echoed around the hospital, the dark hallway. My flashlight got dimmer with every step. I climbed up a flight of stairs, careful not to slip. Finally, I reached room 207. I opened the door and got greeted by a dim light near the patient's bed. She was shivering badly. She said her name was Lauren. She was middle-aged, but no wrinkles or whitening hair. Pretty young-looking to me. Nurse, please change my room. I can't stand this place anymore. I stood there not knowing what to do. I remember what Norris had told me to say. Please calm down. What's the problem? She quivered as her pointing finger pointed to a nearby window. Over there. Outside there was nothing scary. Just a view of the west building and streetlights. Puzzled, I opened the window and peeked my head outside. There's nothing here, I called back to her. I swear to God, there was a thing. Huh? I closed the window behind me. What thing? It was like a smashed face of a young woman, and with its rotten voice it kept calling my name. Please calm down. It was just your imagination. I put her under the sheets, calmed her, until she finally started snoozing. I sighed and stood up and made my way out of the door, slowly closing the door behind me. I walked back to the nurse's station and resumed reading my book. Within 5 minutes, the nurse call light was on again. Room 207. Again? This time, I navigated myself to Lauren's room without a flashlight. Quickly, I opened the door and saw her shivering in bed. Nurse. This time, it was much worse. The moment she calmed down a bit, she shrieked into my face. It came again. The thing. It's here. Please, I beg you, just move me to another room already. Ma'am, it was just your imagination. This often happens in the hospitals after shock of getting an injury. It's all right. She shook her head. It was clear. I saw it. The smashed up face and that woman kept calling for me. It kept on saying, come here, come here, come here, but I swear to God, if I ever get tricked by a monster, I'd get killed by it. Ma'am, please calm down, it's all right. I'll get you some medicine so you can sleep. When she was dozing off, I quietly left the room, but once I was at the nurse's station, I stayed cautious of Lauren wanting to call me again, and she did. Ma'am, how many times do I have to tell you? I was cut off by her shrieks. It came again. Don't tell me it's my imagination. It was here. It's luring me. That thing. Just move me to another room, please. Ma'am, it's okay. Let me check for you. I opened the window and looked around. Close the window, quick. I slammed it shut, and I glared at Lauren. What is it now? You almost let it in. It tried to put its foot in. Can't you see it? I had no patience left. I gave her lots of medicine, and almost instantly she was out. I slammed the door shut behind me, and as I slowly started walking down the hallway, Lauren screamed loud and clear. I ran back to the door. I saw Lauren crouched beside it. Why are you out of your bed? You're not supposed to be in the hallway at night. I woke up because you slammed the door, and it was inside the bed, right in front of me, staring at me. It kept on repeating those damn words. Let me check, okay? I reached for the doorknob, but before I could turn it, a hand reached out and grabbed my wrist. I trapped the thing in there. Don't let it out. I finally realized that this woman was probably mentally disturbed. She was actually seeing these things in her mind, and I could do nothing to stop it. There was only one solution. Lauren, what about this? I'll take you to the nurse's lounge, and you can sleep in there until we move you to another available room. How does that sound? She nodded. I held her up, and we slowly walked back to the lounge where I laid her down on a bench. Wait here. I'll get the head nurse. I called Norris. When she came, I explained everything. Yes, and it was Lauren in room 207. She stared at me. What are you talking about? Lauren Preteo in room 207. You know, the one who has a little mental disorder? Norris wasn't answering. Finally, she talked. Where is she now? I took her into the nurse's lounge without a word. However, where I had left Lauren, she had disappeared. What? Norris stared at me with scared eyes. Nothing that you would expect from a mean lady from her, like her. Follow me. I slowly followed her to the basement, where many passed-away patients were stored for research of an unknown disease. I felt a little dizzy standing there at 3 a.m. Maybe a ghost would appear. Norris led me to the very end of the room. There was a small bed labeled P. Do I have to look? She nodded. I peeked under the covers, hiding the limp body. It was Lauren. Astonished, I looked back at Norris. But how? I was talking to her about 30 minutes ago. She was alive. This lady, she passed away yesterday. I stared back at her. She wasn't looking at me. I couldn't argue. I suddenly remembered the monster that Lauren was complaining about. There was a bed labeled B next to Lauren's. Can I look at this one too? Norris wasn't responding, so I did without her permission. When I looked at the head, I nearly fainted. It was a smashed-up face of a woman. 8 years from that incident. When anyone mentions hospitals, I always get that smashed-up face in my head. It never goes away.